You're not unmotivated, you're uninspired by your environment. In today's video, we're gonna talk all about how difficult it can be to level up in a place that's only ever known the old version of you. And it's really tough when that old version of you was just starting out, was just starting to build something, was feeling a little bit lost, was feeling a little bit stuck, and now you've already passed that. And even though you've passed it, you're still looking to 10x and reach for a level of success that you've never seen before. And I'm speaking from experience. I was at a point where I had hit almost 3 years in my business. I had, no exaggeration, hit my highest income level ever. And then I packed up my life and moved to a different country. I'm sure there are a lot of people that would never be able to understand that. They would never be able to understand why I pivoted when I had just reached a level of success in my business that most people are striving towards. We're going to talk all about this and more, so let's just jump straight into it. I actually think there are two pivotal moments where somebody really should consider relocating to a new city, a new country, if they're looking to make a radical change in their life or in their business. The first point is obvious. It's when you're starting something new. I referenced this in another video before, but there's a lot to be said in neuroscience about how anchoring, whether it's in a new year, a new place, whatever it might be, having a new moment in your life often coincides with giving yourself permission to be a new person and to develop new habits. So again, if you have just been in a place where you are completely stuck, you find yourself even struggling to be that version of yourself that you're even looking to be, you find yourself even struggling to work on that business that you know you want to build, starting over fresh and anchoring yourself in a new place can be the perfect permission that you need psychologically in order for you to give yourself permission to have the daily habits that align with the daily actions that you need to take in order to be this new version of yourself. The second point when I really think somebody should consider jumping is when they have achieved consistent success and or when they've kind of plateaued. This is the perfect opportunity to shake things up for all of the same reasons that I mentioned in the first point, but also because when it comes to business in particular, comfort can be the absolute killer of momentum. So especially when you're in a place where you're comfortable with your business, where you're making a good income, where your bills are paid, where you know you have clients, this is when you start feeling comfortable, when you take your foot off the pedal. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with coasting. There's nothing wrong with feeling comfortable. But I am speaking to the people who want to take things to the next level. And the reality is that familiar places usually means familiar patterns, right? And you are waking up and running your business in the same way every day because that is what's familiar and that is what's comfortable. Again, nothing wrong with that, but if you're looking to achieve growth, we all know the saying that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And when it comes to that saying, I feel like that's the really nice way to say it, but what it's really saying is in order for you to grow, you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be in a place of discomfort. And just naturally to us as humans, being in new environments means we are not as comfortable because we have to redevelop all of those patterns, all of those habits that we had established. So we're starting from scratch in so many ways. I know that's definitely the case for me. I was very comfortable with the bubble, with the ecosystem, with the network that I had built in my hometown, in my home country. I genuinely was at a point where I was not going out of my way to put myself in new environments, to meet new people, and to potentially find new opportunities. I was taking my foot off the gas a little bit. And guys, when I tell you for what I want to achieve and for where I want to be, like it was way too early for me to be doing that. I 100% knew I just had to put myself in different rooms. And this is such a big point on why your hometown might be holding you back, is it might not allow you to be in rooms with the right people. So there's an academic named Scott Galloway who actually talks about this. Now he talks about it from the perspective of young professionals. He basically says that young professionals, wherever they are in the world, should be pushing themselves to move or relocate to super cities, basically the biggest, most cosmopolitan cities on whatever continent that they are. But why does he say this? Why is he telling young people to do this? He's saying it because a lot of times big cities are where wealth and economic growth is really concentrated. So young people can move to these places and they're more likely to have access to opportunities, whether that opportunity is a high-paying job, whether that opportunity is rubbing shoulders with potential investors. And what I want to emphasize is that sometimes that opportunity is just being in a room with people who are thinking bigger than you. I mention this all the time. If you're a solopreneur or if you have a small team of 3 or 4 people, then that means your business is small enough where you are your business in many ways. And if you are your business, then that means that your business is capped at your level of personal development. So remember, you do not want to be the person who is dreaming the biggest in a small town. It would actually probably be more beneficial for you to be that person who's thinking small in a big city. Why? Because you're going to constantly find yourself in environments, you're going to be rubbing shoulders, you're going to be in rooms with people who are dreaming bigger than you, and it's going to inspire you to dream bigger too. As opposed to the opposite, as opposed to when you are in a smaller place where people are constantly looking at you like you're crazy to be pursuing whatever it is you're pursuing. And you're crazy to have the ambitions that you have around your business, around money, around lifestyle. That is not the place that you want to be. It is going to start capping your mindset, and it's going to start capping your belief in yourself, which means it could start capping your income. And here's one of the other reasons why your hometown might be holding you back. It's ultimately because your environment shapes your outlook on things. So for example, I did a whole other video where I talk about how being resourceful is the #1 skill that anybody who is going to be successful in entrepreneurship has to have. And in order to be resourceful, in order to be able to solve problems, you have to be creative. And creativity is also a skill. It's just a skill that most adults do not sharpen and do not use very often. But being in a new environment forces you to be creative. Why? New city, new problems, which means new creative outlook and new opportunities to be creative in order to solve your problems, aka forcing you to be resourceful. The reality is some opportunities just simply will not exist where you started. You're going to have to move yourself physically in order to have access to this new market and new opportunities. I know for me, that's one of the biggest reasons why the people who hear my story and think, why would she do that? Why would she move? It's what they can't understand is that I now have access to a new market where there is endless possibilities. And those possibilities, those opportunities are beyond just a new client. It's opportunities to do new work, be in different rooms, and learn new skills. Because I'm telling you guys, more than I'm ever chasing money, I'm chasing personal development and leveling myself up, because I know that when that is the focus, the money always comes. Like the money will always be there. And here's the thing, guys, you don't have to completely cut ties. You don't have to completely uproot yourself like I did. Ultimately, this for you could look like just putting yourself in new environments. So it could mean taking a weekend trip and going to that conference where you know you're going to be in a room full of people who are big thinkers, or taking that opportunity to be a virtual speaker on a stage where you know you're going to be in front of your ideal client. But you do have to shift your proximity to these environments that allow you to think bigger. And let me tell you guys a story. I remember many years ago, I was in New York City, okay? And I was having a conversation with a guy who is very well connected. I didn't even know how well connected he was at that time because it was really my first time meeting him. And I remember telling him a little bit about what I do. And then he told me, he said, "Oh, I'm meeting with XYZ, a relative of a very famous person that you all would know if I said their name." And he said, "I want to set up a meeting between you guys so that you guys can talk." And I was like, "Oh, actually my flight home is tonight." He was like, "Well, move your flight." Like to him, it was such common sense. He was a person who was thinking so much bigger than I ever was at that moment. And I was very much so like, no, like I have to get to work. I can't miss that flight. And I never moved that flight, guys. And I never had that meeting. And it's just something that I'm thinking about as I'm talking to you guys about this topic right now. Genuinely, it hasn't crossed my mind in years, but it's just one of those moments that when I look back where I think, that was me literally being in the same room as somebody who was thinking so much bigger than I was, who was literally handing me an opportunity on a gold platter. And my level of thinking was so capped. My level of thinking was so limited that I could not see beyond catching my flight that night. life. So just remember that as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is seeking to level up your life, living in a bubble is dangerous. Being the person who is thinking the biggest in that room is dangerous. You need to think beyond your hometown, and sometimes that means getting out of your zip code. If you like this video, make sure you guys give it a thumbs up down below. It really helps with the algorithm. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.